Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a webcast that is going to help you look at how you can go about assessing the maturity of your agency's cloud skills. One of the things that we see regularly in this business is the need for organizations going through a cloud transformation to truly understand where they stand today in their ability to leverage a new adaptive technology like cloud. My name is Andre van der Post, and I'm the DLT Vice President for Platforms and Cloud. And I'm lucky to have with me today Dave Haskin from Pluralsight, who is an expert with many years industry experience in solving this exact problem. Dave has spent a lot of his time in the past few years working with government CIOs to help them get an understanding of where they in the organization stand with understanding the need for skills in their pursuit of cloud excellence. I'm going to ask Dave a couple of questions. He's going to work through some slides, and then we'll have a little bit of a free-form discussion at the end of this webcast to dive a little deeper into some of these interesting topics. So Dave, over to you in terms of where we stand. I would love to hear a little bit more about what Pluralsight is as an organization and the capabilities that they offer to customers in terms of training and education in the cloud arena.
Okay, great. Thanks for the intro, and I'm happy to be here. This is exciting. Yeah, Pluralsight is the technology skills platform, which is clearly on the screen here. But that's a little bit different than e-learning, and the way it's different is the ability to really at scale find out where each learner's at, and then really cater the skills development that they need individually, and find out their gaps. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we do that, but that really puts us in a category of one out there in the world. And we're very laser focused on technology. We try to cover 95% of technology topics that are trending and most important to the industry. And cloud is by far the largest and most highest priority technology at this point, especially for government, as they're starting their cloud journey, most state and local organizations. And so would you like me to just continue?
Yeah, continue would be good. Let's dive a little bit into what you want to show and speak to people about, and then I'll probably ask you some questions as things go through, as topics pop up into my mind.
Okay, great. So the way we do this, we really, for cloud, governments are starting their cloud journey. I say they're still at the point of enabling their basic employees to understand what cloud can be for them. They're still considering, when I ask the question to most government agencies, where are you in your cloud journey? It's sometimes a little bit of an awkward pause while they try to sum up and try to tell me in a little bit more sophisticated terms that they haven't started their cloud journey, or they are barely beginning their cloud journey. They've developed their strategies, but they haven't started. And so if you feel as a government customer that cloud is still a little enigmas, it's kind of a foggy concept, you definitely know there are many cloud products, but cloud itself, like how to start with using infrastructure as a service or platform as a service, you are not alone. You're in the majority. So with Pluralsight, we definitely try to provide you with the clarity you need in the cloud. We partnered with all of the major vendors. You need to find out and index your cloud skills. Find out what your people know first, and then upskill your people into specific roles. And there's more to the cloud journey than just getting certified. And I think you and I have talked about that offline before. How a lot of people are still directed to certifications being the end all in measuring your preparation for the cloud. And that is a step. That is a step to definitely prove that you know a little bit about cloud. You know enough not to get the CISO on your case and not get your organization in trouble, but it's a starting point. Then some way to measure where you're at with your abilities is also critical.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point, because I think if you don't mind, I think one of the things people often do say is, I've got a bunch of people who've gone and been in courses they certified. And, we always ask them, well, what real work have you done? What what hands-on keyboard stuff have you done, and how far through the technical evolution? I know you're going to talk a little bit about mobile and app dev. Is have you taken that core knowledge and helped deliver something that is truly usable? So, I think you've hit the nail on the head around the difference between certifications and true usable skills.
And there's really, to be fair, not really that many easy ways to measure out there at this point. Certifications historically have been a measurement for readiness, and one that's objective, and that's where organizations find themselves at a loss. How do I measure objectively a person's readiness if I don't use a certification? Pluralsight has spent almost a decade developing an artificial intelligence platform that enables the user to find out exactly where their skills are right now before they start their journey in just a few minutes, and then can actually guide them to specific content that fills their gaps personally, and then can remeasure once they've learned quite a bit and had experience practicing, because we also offer cloud labs. We'll have hundreds of cloud labs coming online in the next very briefly, very shortly here. The ability to practice that and then retake that assessment to see how have I improved, objective measurements, and so that has been a critical missing step to the learning journey, to be frank. And with Pluralsight, that's woven in as part of the experience, which gives the learner an ability to know exactly what they need to work on, and the leader gives them an ability to see what those cloud skills are, even index them into a database of skills. Here's what our people know about cloud to date. I can even take the temperature on where we're at with general knowledge. So that is an interesting step. That's what we say at the bottom here, powered by Iris, and I'll discuss that a little more later. Any questions about that or comments?
Yeah, I think what is really interesting is we talk about cloud, and I think you used the word anomalous. Cloud is such an anomalous term to people. There's cloud on-prem, there's hybrid cloud, there's multi-cloud. There's Cloudy with Meatballs, which is one of the best kids programs. If you're looking for COVID quarantine stuff, go and watch Cloudy with Meatballs. But I think one of the things that a lot of the listeners would like to know is how broad is your coverage? There's some logo side, and every company has a NASCAR side. But I would be interested just to get a sense for the range that you cover in terms of the offerings around the various cloud offerings.
That's a great question. Kind of cues me up, tease up my next couple slides. This is just a slide to talk about how deep and broad our coverage is. We don't think of coverage in just terms of vendor only. Most vendors often focus on certifications for very obvious reasons, because they want to make sure and they control what you know. You know all of the features of their platform and can see all of the ways that you could use their platform. And so they're highly focused on certifications for good reason. But there's other things. There's roles, and if you think of the role of a cloud engineer, for example, someone who's a software engineer in the cloud, their life is a lot different in the cloud. Their day-to-day experience of developing in the cloud is a different experience than developing historically the way they've developed. If they've developed a monolithic application, even if they're developing on-prem, they've got to learn new skills, specific skills to their role that may not have anything to do with the vendor. And so that when we talk about coverage, the depth and breadth of our coverage, it is more than just which vendors do we cover, but we definitely cover all of the major vendors, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, as well as Cisco, and most of the other major vendors are covered on our platform. And we absolutely help with helping you to pass that certification exam if that is one of your goals. We have learning paths that are specifically aligned to helping you pass the test. In fact, we've even provided you unlimited access to Kaplan practice exams to prepare for that test. Now, we don't administer that. We don't proctor our exams. We point you out to one of the many organizations that do that for the vendors, but we get you ready in every way, including practice labs, to check opportunity to practice that skill. So yes, as far as coverage, I think I've got another slide on that in a moment, but this specific slide speaks to the skills that we're focused on is in pink, and the roles is in blue. And often what we're trying to do is develop a role. If you're a cloud engineer, you need to learn everything about the technology stack that you are using. And that may be AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud if you're in a multi-cloud strategy, or just one. You've got to get this certified, and often before the CISO will even let you touch the environment. So you've got to get a certification, but then you need other specific skills that will help you to be a developer in the cloud. And often the other missed step is basic cloud awareness. Often the vendors try to address that, but they address it in very vendor-specific terms. So we have vendor agnostic concepts. Really, we do excellent at giving you the on-ramp to the cloud. And that is another huge thing that we get requests for in government is, can you just help us frame this discussion? Help us understand all of the different elements of cloud and what's out there and what's available to know which path we should even go down. And we have all of that as well as the content coverage. We are 93% freshness. So freshness has to do with how old the content is versus how fresh and new. And you can see some of the concepts here on this slide, some of the areas of cloud we cover. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I love the notion of role-based, because I think, again, with a technology background and experience, I will tell you, most of our customers, and I was a CTO in government for a number of years, you tend to get so wrapped around in the technical competencies and certifications that you forget that these people actually have real jobs. And the job encounters more than just solving a technical problem. So the role-based stuff, I think, is awesome. Tell us a little bit more about, the way you approach assessments. You mentioned Iris and what that is and how that fundamentally differentiates you from other training vendors. I don't see you as a training vendor. I'm sure some people do. To you a lot more. You're a true development vendor. So I'd love to hear a little bit more, and I'm sure the audience would, around what you have with Iris, how you do the assessments, and why that so strongly differentiates your offering from so many others in the market.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great point. Specifically about the training, I like to avoid the word training, because training implies reading or looking at something and then you're done. We focus on skill development, and that implies a lot more than just learning something or watching a video. It's practicing it and then being able to measure if you've actually learned it. So yeah, that's where Iris comes in. So Iris is intelligent skill development. Iris, what Iris was originally designed for was to guide a learner to the most relevant part of the platform. We have over 7,000 courses, and they're growing over 100 courses a month, and so many other elements to the platform besides courses, like ways to practice in the app with the instructor to try to learn a development language. It would help to actually practice coding it while you're watching, or offline projects, or guides which give you instructions, written instructions on how to do something. So there's a lot of different content that's constantly being developed, and a person can get lost in all that content unless they're guided. So Iris was originally there to find out what your interests were, and then watch what you pay attention to what content you view, and based on your viewing habits and your stated interests, Iris can guide you to what's next for your persona. Really, Iris is intelligently guiding a user to the best parts of the platform that's most relevant to them. And part of that was guiding a user through a learning path. When you start a skill learning path, there might be 50 hours of content and 13 different courses to watch. That's a little overwhelming. So Iris guides you to say, let's see where your starting point is. It could be that you have some adjacent skills and some background knowledge that really gets you maybe start halfway through instead of in the beginning. So that's originally all Iris was intended to do, but she's gotten so good at gauging where a person's at, she can actually customize a learning plan for an individual based on a 5-minute assessment. So we plug in 300 to 1,000 different questions into the Iris engine. She goes out and administers these skill assessments thousands of times to beta test them. And then a learner is given less than 20 questions, not thousands, and it only takes 5 to 7 minutes, but each question is timed, and it's an adaptive dynamic assessment where a person is asked a middle of the road difficulty question on a specific element of that technology. And based on their answer, it will determine whether the next question is harder or easier. And each question is timed, and you can only take it twice, so you can't really game the system. And at that point, after you've done your 5 to 7 minute assessment, IRIS benchmarks your skills against everyone who's taken that assessment in 150 countries. So you get a score, an IQ score between 0 and 300, and a badge. And the kind of questions we're asking are really intended to find out what a person can do with a given technology, not what they remember only, but also how well they understand that technology, how can they apply it, and how can they analyze problems in their environment using this skill to solve them. So this is a little deeper, and these questions are not just knowledge questions; they're really familiarity with the technology questions. And a person is then in 20 questions able to get a very objective measurement of their skills with a score and a badge. Any questions or comments on that?
No, I love the notion of the learning path, guided learning path, driven by an assessment that is real capability based as opposed to knowledge based. Often in my experiences, you'll have people who have touched the technology, know the buzzwords, can talk about the technology, frankly have never used the technology. And cloud is one of those because it is new, it is interesting. There's so much out there. I always used to joke as a CTO is that everybody is now technology expert because they can Google a term or an acronym. This truly does set people apart because you're testing more than just the ability to talk about something. Talk to me a little bit more about, if you can, in terms of where the learning path goes and how the role is developed. Because again, I think I have a good understanding just from watching what you've spoken about now around the assessment piece, but I am intrigued about what you do in terms of how you bundle these things into role IQs, because ultimately you develop a skill for a role, not just for the fact that you want to develop a skill.
That's an excellent point. These skill IQs, as good as they are granular, and it takes more than one skill to become really proficient in a role. A developer may think they know JavaScript really well, but really they only use one or two elements of JavaScript. And this skill IQ can actually flesh out gaps that they didn't realize they had, and also give them an objective measurement of where they're at, benchmarking against everyone. But that's just one skill. They need many other skills to do their job. So, and I skipped over the customized learning plan. I mentioned it before, but role IQ is a system for measuring proficiency in a job role. So when you look at a role, and I'm going to use a bad example for the cloud discussion, but a server administrator, think of the experience of you're onboarding a new server administrator from outside the organization. They need to know what you expect them to do, and when you come and give them a 30, 60, 90-day spreadsheet and someone to sit with, that's a good start. But if you could give them role IQ, a list of the specifically stated 8 different skills you're going to need in this role, and a way for them to measure where they're at with each one. Each of these is a skill assessment on the left. So you've got 8 different skills needed for this job. As the person takes these skill IQs, just a few minutes each, they get a score that aggregates up to tell them they are a level 1 server administrator. Now that is great information for a new employee. It's also great information for the manager, because now you see not that the person is a level 1 or level 2, that's helpful, but what's more helpful is to see that they're expert, proficient, or novice in each of these skills. You can start to see which skills are common novice skill levels for everyone on your team, and it could be that everyone has a novice rating around the same area. Now you can know what to focus on as a team, and you can also see how many level 1s, level 2s, level 3s we have when you are building the team. You can start to develop an idea of what you need, where your gaps are as a team. But the role, that learner now has exactly what they need to work on. And with each of these skills, I did glaze over a part that's important. Instead of 50 hours of content, a person is given a customized learning plan with less than 2 hours of content. So a person that takes a skill analysis knows exactly what to work on. So when you go to role IQ, each of these skill IQs gives you a score, a badge, and a customized learning plan, and so the learner can know exactly what they need to work on.
Yeah, what I find fascinating about this is the ability to not just look at an individual, but use those assessments and evaluations, because they're almost peer or industry based, to assess a team environment. That is unusual. I would hesitate to say it's probably unique in what I've seen, but it is so critical, because what the blind spot to many technical organizations is typically they know what they've got. They typically don't know what they don't have. And so,
Right.
what you often see, and you see this in a lot in the cloud space, just like in traditional technology environment, the only time you realize you have a dearth or a hole in your skills or your role portfolio is if something breaks and there's nobody there to fix it, and then it's too late. So this notion
Right.
of being able to use this both as an evaluator of where your capability sits, but where your capability gaps are, I think is really, really interesting. I know that you do have a slide just on skills coverage, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about that. And then I really want to get into some nitty gritty, which is, I'm sure by this stage, anybody, and I'm included in this, so you're going to get this question from me in an email after this, is if I want to see more about it, if I want to dive more into it, I want to see a demo, I want to understand the applicability of Pluralsight and its capabilities to my own organization, how do I do that? And then, what are routes to procurement? How do I go about actually making this a part of my strategy and my cloud enablement strategy in the simplest, easiest fashion?
Great. Yep. I'm happy to help with those areas. So first, coverage. We've got this cloud. I can't keep this slide updated. We're at 7,000 courses and growing. But these just gives you some ideas on the different coverage areas. It could be by role. If you're a software developer, we've got a category for software developers. You're only going to care about your tech stacks, but our search engine is very powerful and can guide you right to the learning paths, the content, the certification courses, everything you need to prepare to learn the new skills you need. But what if you're an executive? That's often overlooked. We have executive briefings to help the leaders stay up to speed on the emerging technologies like blockchain and AI and data lakes and data democratization, and these concepts that everyone gets the idea, but they need better knowledge of, but they don't need to know how to do it. They need to know what it is and whether it matters. So we have 20 to 30-minute executive briefings that will guide the executives, and as well as the enterprise architects and the project managers, people that need to know a very wide, broad knowledge level, but don't need it very deep. And then we've also got big picture courses, which are often the first step in a journey. And we even have soft skills. I've been told directly by many CIOs that a lot of technologists go into technology to avoid talking to people. And then they find themselves in a management role, and they no longer can avoid that necessary evil of talking to people. So we definitely have soft skills like emotional intelligence and communication courses to help those technologists to be able to adapt to their new life as a manager. I don't know if you've noticed that in your experience, but
I'm quietly laughing to myself because you've just described my own entry into this world. So my wife is a change management expert, and she often constantly reminds me that I have the EQ of a fruit fly. And I was one of those people who got into IT because I was somewhat smart and I was logical and I was practical, and I didn't want to talk to people. And I'm a VP covering a fairly large team right now, and I have to constantly keep learning my softer skills. So you get definitely getting an email from me, because again, the other thing is managing as an executive in the technology space, given the rate of change, is different. It does take a different type of engagement, communication skills. And by the way, your technical developers, your architects, your server administrators, call it who you are, they expect you as a leader to have a level of technical proficiency. Otherwise, you don't earn their respect. So it's exciting that the coverage is there. last thing then really for me to dig into and before we close out this is just how do we go about getting more? How do we go about, setting up a demo and getting to see this and ultimately, what is the best route to procurement if we want to move forward with you as a service provider?
Great question. DLT is our strongest partner in this space for government. We've got many other channel partners that can help assist with procurement, but the easiest direct path is probably go out to our website and click on I'd like to learn more, and you will be guided to a sales rep. Just to give you an idea of what this product is, it is a per user per year license in most cases, and we do not limit coverage to based on the plan. Content coverage is not limited for beginner plans versus more advanced plans. That is also a common question, is how do we procure this? We're on many different contracts across every state in the union, as well as a lot of federal contracts as well. So procurement, reach out directly to your channel partner that you work with, or to DLT, or just click on our website and say I'm interested, and you'll be directed to the appropriate sales rep that can reach out to you, and I come out with the sales rep and can meet with your executive team and help you understand how to use this and how it might align best with your organization.
Awesome, that is great. And again, as we wrap up, I really want to say thank you for the deep insights you have shared with us. I'm excited about the capability. It is something that I think is much needed, and your level of knowledge and experience, I think, is very unique in the industry. And so, wrapping up this, I think a couple of things that I heard, and probably everybody else will take away from this, which is one, this is bigger than training. I think everybody has heard this is skills development. It's not just developing, though, a set of skills as isolated capabilities. It's how do you develop skills within a role-based environment? And then how do you take those roles within your greater organization and assess the role capability across multiple colleagues, multiple people, to ensure that you're both growing the skills and roles you need and identifying that those areas that may be blind spots to you. And so in that, what you're starting to develop is a solid base for a future growth in terms of your business, whether it be technical people, executive people, business people. And that, when you look at it through the multi and many dimensions that Dave has shared with us today, I think everybody would agree that Pluralsight is absolutely unique in the industry and uniquely placed to serve that much needed capability. So I'm going to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to Dave for participating. Thank you to everybody who's taken the chance to listen and learn with us today. Reach out to me, reach out to Dave, reach out via the website to a channel partner in DLT, and we look forward to enabling and driving your skills development and role development going forward. So thank you once again, everybody, for your time today.
Thank you, Andre.